Welcome to today's Explainer. If you're tuning in, you're likely sitting at the helm of a major financial institution, making those big strategic calls. And today, we are zeroing in on a massive, profound shift in our industry. For years, banks have poured literally billions into digital transformation. But honestly, we're moving way past the era of superficial digitalization. We're stepping right into the era of autonomous banking. Our goal today is to equip you with the strategic framework you need to flip your operating model from this labor-intensive execution grind into a highly intelligent value creation engine. Okay, let's dive into this. All user input is error. Now, coming from Elon Musk, that might sound a bit extreme, especially if you're dealing with real-life customers every single day. But if we apply this to banking operations, it is a brilliant lens to look through. Think about it. The core logic here is that every single time a human being manually touches a process, they're introducing variability, right? And with variability comes potential error. We get tired, we make assumptions, we build these inconsistent, clunky workarounds, usually buried in some massive spreadsheet. So in this framing, manual human touchpoints in your banking processes aren't just minor inconveniences, they are actual system design flaws. So here is our roadmap for today's executive briefing. 1. The digital banking illusion. 2. 3 layers of transformation. 3. Rise of autonomous banking. 4. AI architecture in practice. And finally, number 5, the new executive dashboard. We are going to move rapidly from identifying those current operational illusions straight into strategic execution. Let's get right into Section 1, the digital banking illusion, moving beyond the app. This brings us to a really fascinating concept: zero operations or zero ops. Now, I want to be absolutely clear here. Zero ops does not mean zero people. That's a huge misconception. What it actually is a fundamental redesign of your operating model to completely eliminate manual bottlenecks. It means a payment settles, a KYC check completes, or a trade finance document is validated without someone sitting in the middle doing a robotic task. A well-designed system can do that way faster, and crucially, with a perfect audit trail. What this does is elevate your human talent. You shift their roles from just repetitive execution to system design, monitoring, and actually exercising complex judgment. When you break down retail banking, it's roughly 70% architecture and only 30% interface. But unfortunately, most people, and honestly, way too many banks, just see the app. The real challenge, the real heavy lifting of transformation, lies about 5 layers deeper than that mobile app everyone focuses on. You see, traditional banks bolting a shiny app onto legacy branch infrastructure and calling it digital. But the true digital pioneers, they're out there building API moats and fully automated front, middle, and back offices. That is what completely redefines the cost to serve. All right, Section 2, 3 layers of transformation, building a better bank. Let's move to and see how this builds across 3 interconnected layers of transformation. First step is the customer layer. That's what everyone sees: mobile banking, eKYC, AI chatbots, but the real magic happens below the surface. The second layer is the workflow layer. This dictates how the bank actually functions day to day across lending, operations, risk, and AML. And finally, the third is the core layer. This is the absolute foundation. We're talking enterprise data platforms, API ecosystems, and your cloud infrastructure. Now, while it's definitely less visible than a slick new mobile app, automating that middle and back office workflow layer is just incredibly impactful. In fact, this is where so many banks are hitting their fastest return on investment. Imagine deploying AI and automation into loan origination or AML investigations, a process that used to take literally days of manual document review and jumping between disjointed systems. It can suddenly be completed in just a few hours. That is a game changer. Moving on to Section 3, Rise of Autonomous Banking, the ABOS paradigm. We really have to contrast the expensive, frustrating reality of legacy modernization with the scalable efficiency of a truly autonomous system. For decades, banks have spent absolute fortunes on modernization, yet they're still operating with fragmented architectures, massive data silos, and constant manual exception handling. It's basically the digital equivalent of duct tape. Autonomous banking, on the other hand, is fundamentally different. It is AI native from the ground up, built on an API-first design and relentlessly striving for that zero operations ideal. It's not just about automating 1 or 2 processes anymore. It's about building an intelligent enterprise that learns and executes at scale. Which brings us to Section 4, AI architecture in practice, inside the autonomous infrastructure. Let's shift from the theory to the real world and look at how global leaders are actually building this stuff. A perfect example comes from inside HSBC's AI architecture. Their engineering sequence is so deliberate. Before they even attempt to add AI, they start by ruthlessly stripping away complexity. By retiring 3,000 legacy applications, they wiped out countless integration points and operational dependencies. You literally have to simplify your estate and standardize the data plane first, because without a clean foundation, an AI workflow has absolutely no chance of orchestrating your operations successfully. And this brilliantly illustrates HSBC's approach. They use 3 distinct deployment topologies structured exactly around their specific regulatory and scaling needs. For high-volume financial crime processing, we're talking over 1 billion transactions a month. They rely on managed ML through Google Cloud. For knowledge-intensive reasoning tasks, they tap into OpenAI as an API-based frontier model. And for workflows where privacy-first absolute data ownership across 57 countries is non-negotiable, they use self-hosted Mistral AI foundation models. It is an architecture perfectly designed for their operational constraints. But here is the absolutely critical part for any regulated institution. Regardless of which specific AI model or topology you're using, you must have a unified common control plane. That is a non-negotiable necessity. This platform handles all the identity, security, lineage, and auditability controls. It essentially creates this strict separation between your data plane, the inference plane, and the control plane. So different business units can leverage different foundation models, but you never sacrifice operational consistency or your regulatory governance. If we look regionally, we are seeing incredible momentum highlighting this exact architectural shift. Just in the GCC market, 7 digital banking licenses have been granted recently between Saudi Arabia and the UAE. Saudi Arabia already has 3 standalone operational digital banks. Meanwhile, the UAE has this layer ecosystem of 4 digital banks and 4 digital brands. Now, this region has some amazing structural advantages, sovereign wealth backing, and a real regulatory appetite to experiment. But they still face the exact same challenge. They have to build something structurally distinct at the infrastructure level. They can't just paint a clean, modern interface over old, clunky legacy systems. Let's look at Section 5, the new executive dashboard, measuring autonomous success. As you build out these autonomous systems, the C-suite has to completely change how they measure success. The dashboards of the future can't just focus on basic customer adoption metrics or share transaction volume. Those days are gone. The new rules of the game require you to focus heavily on operational resilience and intelligent execution. Are you tracking your decision automation rate, your mean time to recovery? What about AI explainability or your operational resilience index? You need to ask yourself, are your systems actively learning and self-correcting? Are you actually optimizing cloud efficiency and driving FinOps savings? These are the real indicators that you're running a truly autonomous enterprise. And let me tell you, the targets here are incredibly ambitious. When you're talking about AI-native autonomous operations, you should be targeting an 80 to 95% straight-through processing rate. By hitting numbers like that, you are systematically slashing the 15 to 40% of capacity that's currently just totally consumed by manual exception handling. You are literally turning your operations from a massive cost center into this agile, highly automated engine. So the crucial point is this: true architectural transformation yields a 2 to 5 times return on investment, period. It fundamentally cuts your cost to serve and your cost per transaction. It drives massive productivity improvements while drastically reducing the risk of operational events. Going forward, the true competitive advantage is going to belong solely to those institutions that fully embrace this level of systemic, intelligent automation. I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to take right back to your executive committees. Take a really close look at your current technology roadmap and those massive transformation budgets. Ask yourselves honestly, are you actually building an autonomous banking operating system capable of zero operations? Or are you simply spending millions and millions of dollars just to digitize and modernize your existing legacy complexity? The answer to that question is exactly what will define the future survival and profitability of your institution. Thank you so much for joining this explainer. Keep questioning the architecture, and we'll see you next time.